In August of 2000, the H. Richard Driehaus Foundation enabled Irma and I to return to Costa Rica for the first time since 1993. This time, we also took two other artists, Bryant Hulsenbeck and Jim Kirkpatrick, to join me in this teaching expedition. Irma brought her husband Manny. Jim was accompanied by his wife Ruth and his children Galen and Jared, and we ranged in age from 1 to 84. We flew from Raleigh-Durham to San Jose, where we rented a van. Then, packing all of our many supplies and belongings in the van and the children, we headed off to the Caribbean coast. Just south of Limon, we stopped at the Sloth Refuge, where Judy and Luis introduced us to Buttercup. Her mother had been killed by a car when she was a baby, and Judy had cared for her for the past 7 years. Experiencing Buttercup convinced Judy and Louis to begin a refuge. They now have 13 sloths in residence. From there, we traveled down the coast to Puerto Viejo, where we made a pit stop at the Chinaman's, which had not changed at all since '93. Then it was on to Miraflores Lodge and its owner, Pamela Navarro. The lodge looked as beautiful as it had been in '93, and Juan was still the gardener. Settling in, we started planning our schedules. For the first 2 weeks, I stayed at Miraflores, teaching in the rancho, beginning with the ladies from Manzanillo and Cochle's making green parrots. The real ones had been plentiful in '93, but were now almost rare. After the parrots, we started on the scarlet macaws. Dorothy Davis joined us as the representative of a woman's craft collective from Cawita in the north. She acted as our interpreter and worked with us for the full month, learning everything we had to teach. I completed the 2 weeks with blue river dolphins, which had been coming up the coast from Brazil to Manzanillo. Carlotte and Winnie had worked with us in '93, and we were really glad to have them back in 2000. Dina managed to finish everything while working at a resort down the road, and Mauricio and Anna posed proudly with their finished work. Meanwhile, Bryant, an expert in using recycled materials, checked out the recycling center and found tons of plastic water bottles. Everyone used to boil their water, but now the tourists bring in their water and the bottles are left behind. She taught everyone how to make bugs and flowers out of plastic bottles. She also taught beading, making iguanas and fish. To encourage everyone to use the materials at hand, Bryant had them decorate mirrors with shells and driftwood from the beach. During the 3rd week, Bryant went down the road to a local school where she worked with several children, making flowers from recycled materials. Meanwhile, Jim demonstrated his joinery skills, the art of combining wood without using nails, which is a distinct advantage in the tropics, to some local woodworkers. Next, he went to a woodworking shop on the Bribri Reserve. This workshop had been outfitted by the mining company wanting access to the Bribri land. Jim then went on to Watsi on the reserve, where he met with Timoteo and a group of young men who opposed the mining of Bribri land. Here he shared patterns, knowledge, and techniques with the young men, while the children colored on the floor and a young mother calmed the babies in the traditional brie-brie hammock. During the last 2 weeks, Bryant and I stopped in Kikolde and picked up Gloria Mayorga, another old friend from '93, and her companions for the 30-mile trip to Brie-Brie. There we supplemented our sewing and snack supplies. Then we moved on to Watsi, where we taught soft sculpture and beading. Timoteo showed us what the woodworkers had been doing. The turtle stools were delightful. Bryant started on the beadwork, and I began the soft sculpture by sewing sloths. The animal and the pattern were very complex. In Brie-Brie, we were joined by Maurizia from Kawita, who joined Dorothy as our interpreter when the languages got difficult. We worked daily in one room, sewing away on the sloths, beating reptiles and fish, while the woodworkers drilled, sawed, and chipped away on their stools, tables, and carvings. During lunch breaks, Bryant and I walked down to the Brie-Brie gift shop for carved gourds, woven baskets, bows and arrows. At the end of our stay, Miraflores hosted a goodbye party where everyone showed off their work. Sloths, dolphins, scarlet macaws, green parrots, plastic flowers and reptiles, and Dorothy showed her small green iguana. The cooks grated coconut for the rundown, or fish stew, and everyone gathered for the group pictures. We left the woodworkers with over $600 worth of tools, and they were being very well used. The lively group from Manzanillo and Coakley's proudly held up their accomplishments. The Brie-Brie ladies exhibited the sloths with their velcroed hands and feet and a zipper in their stomachs so that the children might use them as backpacks. Judy and Luis came down from the sloth refuge with 2 small sloths. They applauded our efforts and would like to sell the fabric sloths to the tour boats coming into Limon. We then gathered everyone for a large group picture to mark our achievements and to say goodbye to a memorable experience.